Welcome to Exploiting the Cookie Jar, an explanation of the tragedy of the commons by myself. So what is the tragedy of the commons? The tragedy of the commons is an economic model presented in 1968 by ecologist Garrett Hardin. In his article, he spoke of a natural resource that was non-excluding to all members of the public, and all members of the public had an interest to exploit this resource. The problem was they only bared a small fraction of the cost of exploiting this resource. This eventually led to overutilization and the resource being dwindled down to zero. In his economic model, he spoke of a cow pasture that was overly populated by cattle and eventually led to a barren dust field. It is important to understand this economic model because it is commonly used in economic and natural resource issues. To give an example explaining this model, let's use an issue that I'm sure everyone has experienced. Say you're in your car and you want to get to another location that is 60 miles away. So to get to your location as quick as possible, you hop on the highway, or as we'll call it, Highway A. In this model, Highway A is seen as the commons. It is a public good provided by public taxpayer money. It is not excluding to individual vehicles. Everyone has interest to exploit it because it gets to your destination quicker, and everyone only bears a small portion of the cost. But what if you're trying to get to your destination at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday? The resource has now been overly exploited to the point that the value is dropped to zero. People are now going out of their way to avoid the highway system as this resource has been overly exploited. This is a classic case of the tragedy of the commons. So how do we avoid the tragedy of the commons? We could try regulating the flow using a traffic light system, but it's important to note this does not drop the demand for the highway, only regulates the flow of people. Or we can try installing a price. By installing a price, we are therefore dwindling out the people who do not want to pay for the highway system, therefore having less people on the highway, ensuring that this resource is not overly utilized. This works by using a supply and demand model. The supply and demand model uses two axes, the price axis and the quantity axis. The blue line represents the supply of highway system. The blue line is flat because whether the price goes up or the price goes down, the amount of quantity offered is the same. The red line represents quantity demanded. You can see as the price grows, the quantity demanded falls, but as the price drops, the quantity demanded rises. You can see that when a price is installed, now shown by the blue line, that the demand does drop. This is because some people are excluded from the highway system as they do not wish to pay the fee to drive on the highway system. They'll find other ways around. They'll go on a side road. But when the price is zero, listed by the black line on the bottom of the graph, you can see the demand is infinite, much larger. The sheer amount of people that can fit on the highway will get on the highway. The demand is that high. The only problem is by installing a fee, you are now removing the highway system from the public commons. But by doing this, you are ensuring the tragedy of the commons will no longer happen. Thank you for watching my presentation about the tragedy of the commons.